Welcome to the Poor Man's Gourmet Kitchen, where we share gourmet recipes at a low-budget wonder. Now check this out. Here I've got two 4-ounce lobster tails. And the first thing you want to do is remove the shell so it looks something like this here. And the easiest way to do that is to turn the tails over and cut down the center of the membrane. Stop at the fan tail, turn it over on its back, and repeat the same thing. Now all you have to do is peel the shell apart and remove the meat from each side of that shell. But you want to break it off right here at the fan tail, leaving it connected to the meat. Just like that. Now again repeat and do the same thing to the other side. Just twist and it'll snap right off. Just like that. Now you just have to devein the lobster tail. No problem. And now we've got two shelled and deveined lobster tails. Now to prepare for frying, you're going to cut 8-inch slits about a 1/2 inch apart all along the bottom of the lobster tail. And be really careful that you don't cut all the way through the meat. This is going to help prevent the curling of the tail when it's fried. And this will keep it nice and straight with that crispy tempura batter. But you're going to want a little seasoning, so I'm going to hit the top of these here with a little bit of kosher salt. Now I'm just going to dip these in some flour and make sure they're fully coated. It'll help the tempura batter stick to these when they're frying. Something like this is perfect. Now if you don't know how to make tempura batter, I've got the perfect recipe and I'll include it at the end of this video and in the description below. But the most important thing here is that you get the consistency of pancake batter. Just nice and thin. Then just dip each one of your tails and fully coat and let some of the excess drip off a little bit. Then you want to go ahead and add it to your fryer. Now it'll only take about 5 minutes to cook at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. In the meantime, I'm going to make something to dip my lobster tail in. Got 4 parts of water here, and I just need to add 1 part of this tempura dipping sauce. So yes, I'm cheating. But what's a lobster tail without some melted butter? So I like to get that going as well. But if you'd like to make your own sauce, try this. A little bit of hoisin, some garlic black bean sauce, and a little bit of orange chili sauce. I mix these sauces together for my salt and pepper calamari recipe, and it is excellent with this as well. Now let's pull out our lobster tails, and as you can see here, they are good to go. So we'll just drop those on some paper towels and let them soak up some of that oil. And go ahead and plate the sauces and drop in not 1 but 2 of these beautiful tails. And there you have it, tempura lobster tails right here in the Poor Man's Gourmet Kitchen. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stop by PoorMansGourmetKitchen.com for more recipes and exact ingredients. Here I've got 2 4-ounce lobster tails I picked up for $5 each. And these are the perfect size to use for this lobster sauce recipe. So the first thing you want to do is add some crab seasoning to a couple cups of boiling water. Just give that a quick stir, and then add your lobster tails right to it. You'll want to let these cook over medium heat for just 5 minutes. Now you're going to need to chop some garlic, some scallions, and some fresh parsley. By now the tails should be cooked, and as you can see they've got a nice red-orange color to them. You want to just throw those on a plate and let them cool for a few minutes. Now here I've got some seafood scissors made by Starfrit, and it's real important to have durable shears when you're cutting shellfish. These have a real nice reverse snip when you're cutting, and if you turn them over here, you can see there's a real handy way that it can open and come apart for easy cleaning. Now let's show you how these work. You want to grip the shell with the fantail up, then you hook the shears in the center and you cut all the way down the top of the shell. It really doesn't get any easier. Now you can just peel back the shell and pull out the meat. Just like that. Now all you have to do is cut some bite-sized pieces and take the rest of that shell and throw it back in that crab boil. This is going to help create a real nice lobster stock that we can use here for our sauce. In the back pot I've got some boiling water that I'm going to season here with some salt and a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to add a 4-cheese ravioli right to it and start cooking this. Now add some butter to a hot pan and immediately add that chopped lobster. You want to just saute this here for a minute, then we'll start adding our other ingredients, starting with some garlic and then those scallions we chopped up earlier. Now this might scare you, but to get some real nice flavor we're going to add some anchovy paste. But you only need about a half teaspoon of this, but it's really going to brighten this flavor. And once you stir and mix that into that lobster, you're going to sneak into the lobster stock that we're creating here and ladle in an entire scoop right over the top. So as you can see, we're starting to get somewhere. Now just throw in a shot of amaretto or cognac if you got it, and give that a good stir. Just bring it to a boil, and then you can start adding your cream. And all you've got to do is babysit this sauce and let it reduce. Then you can add some fresh Parmesan and go ahead and throw in that parsley. You shouldn't have to worry about salting this dish, but I do like to add some black pepper. And once your sauce is about this consistency, you're good to go. Now just strain out the raviolis, or pasta if you prefer. Throw that down on a plate, and then come right over the top with that lobster sauce. Now this dish goes really good with mussels or shrimp scampi. I've got recipes for both of those included at the end of this video, so be sure to check those out. And there you have it, lobster sauce right here in the Poor Man's Gourmet Kitchen. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stop by PoorMansGourmetKitchen.com for more recipes and exact ingredients. So here I've got a 3-pound lobster. And I'll admit it was a little spendy, but if you look at the size of the tail here, it's about the size of my hand. Even the claws are good sized. And as you can see here, it takes up my entire cutting board. And the first thing you want to do is find this line on the back of the shell here so we can dispatch the lobster humanely. And you want to take the tip of your knife and put it right in the center, push down through the shell, and carefully work the blade between the eyes and down to the cutting board. Now the lobster's dead, so just work your blade the opposite direction, going down the back of the shell, all the way through the tail, and down to the fantail. And you can choose to go all the way through, or keep it intact on the bottom. Then using both hands, you can split the entire lobster open. And as you can see here, we've got some cleaning to do. Just like shrimp, you can devein the lobster by pulling this vein right out. And to many people, this roe is a delicacy and practically worth its weight in gold. So unless you're not a fan, don't throw it out. but be sure to give this cavity a good rinse. You can also go ahead and remove the rubber bands from the claws. Now here I've got a large turkey roasting pan. I'm boiling a couple inches of water. I'm going to just drop this lobster right in there on its belly. The steam bath will help disinfect the shell and par-cook the lobster meat. And don't freak out if you see any twitching or involuntary movement. Lobster meat shrinks when it cooks, so the heat is just tightening up the joints, causing movement. No different than bacon or sausage sizzling in a pan. But you do want to go ahead and cover it with a lid. Let it steam in there for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the size of your lobster. And when it's done, it'll look something like this. Now we're ready for the grill. And I preheat with medium heat. And I drop the lobster on its belly first. And you want to saturate the tail and the inside of this cavity with olive oil. This will keep the meat from drying out. And just in case you're wondering, you can bake your lobster if you don't want to grill. Now we can go ahead and flip this bad boy over. Give it some grill time. Another 5 minutes or so is all it's going to need. In the meantime, I'm going to drop some garlic, some fresh basil, some green onion, a little bit of melted butter, and a pinch of salt and pepper to make our secret sauce. And I just give it several pulses until I feel like it's as thick or as thin as I want it. A nice little mulch like this is perfect. Now back to the grill. Now how's that looking? Good enough to like and subscribe to my channel? Get on it. So all we gotta do now is flip this bad boy over, spoon in and spread some garlic, basil, and butter paste. I usually just work it into both sides of the tail meat. And with a lobster this size, it's good to work it into the cavity as well. There's a lot of meat in there that most people take for granted. Now it's so hot, I'm going to just drop it on my counter and let it cool for a minute. And if you have some leftover spread, just drop some more butter into that and give it a nuke. And there you have it. Grilled lobster right here in the Poor Man's Gourmet Kitchen. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stop by PoorMansGourmetKitchen.com for more recipes and exact ingredients. First thing you want to do is melt down some cream cheese mixed with a can of cream of celery over medium-low heat. Then chop some red onion, some fresh parsley, fresh basil, and of course a few cloves of garlic. Now you'll need about a 1/4 cup of olive oil, and you can start adding the fresh basil, the garlic, and just a couple pinches of that parsley. Then add a little bit of salt. Mix that together and we'll create a real nice marinade. By now the cream cheese should be melted in pretty good, so just stir that in and set it aside for a few minutes to cool. Now here I've got 2 steamed lobsters, and the first thing you want to do is flip each one of these over and twist out each one of their claws by snapping them right out of their sockets. And on the head here it looks like there's a mouth. You want to stick the tip of your blade right in the center there and cut right down between the legs with a very sharp knife. But we're not looking to cut all the way through the lobster. Just break open the back here so we can open the cavity. And as you can see down the center here, we've got a lot of the eggs, which is formerly called roe, and of course the tail meat. It's up to you whether or not you want to keep that in there, but I'm going to rinse it out. Now all you have to do is remove the tail meat. And that's a real good portion to work with. We're also going to need all the meat out of these claws. Just break off the smaller portion, and then you can snap right into the larger and pull out a real hefty sized piece of meat. You can also get a decent sized portion out of the lower arm. And once you're done, you should have at least this much meat out of one lobster. But we're going to need some crab meat as well. And once you've added the lobster meat to that, you're going to come right back over the top of this with that marinade. And once you get that mixed in real good, just set it aside and let that marinate. Now just for fun, I've decided to cook some bacon, but you already know how to make bacon. So just set that aside, because the important thing here is the bacon grease. Here I've got some bay scallops, and I'm going to add that right to the bacon grease. This is going to give it a real nice flavor. And you want to just cook it till you see a nice little golden brown around the edges. Then you want to add some shrimp. And cooking these together isn't a big deal. All you do is just flatten them out, come back in and flip each one of them over until they have that orange color on both sides. Then I just add a little salt and pepper. Now's a good time to add that red onion we chopped up earlier, followed by the rest of that parsley. And just so you know, I've added my lobster sauce and my lobster tail recipe at the end of this video and in the description below. And the last thing you want to add is about a tablespoon of butter. And once that's melted and mixed in completely, just set it aside and let it rest for a minute. Now in a large bowl, I'll lightly beat 1 egg and mix in the cream cheese and cream of celery. Then add some mustard, some Worcestershire, and shake in a little bit of paprika. Then of course salt and pepper. You just want to mix this in till it's about the consistency of mayonnaise. Now add the marinated crab and lobster meat. And now the shrimp and scallops. But we're also going to need something that can bind all of this together. So I baked some drop biscuits, and I'll include this recipe at the end of this video. And I just take a couple of these biscuits and I just shred them right over the top. Then just stir all of that together, and once it's all mixed up, it should look something like this. Now if you're like me, you might want to consider adding that bacon. Just smash and break that up in here as well. And once you get that all folded up in here, you can go ahead and start stuffing your lobster. I generously fill it in all the way down to the tail. And there's enough stuffing here for 2 lobsters. And then you want to just shake some seasoned breadcrumbs right over the top. Then just take it to the oven, and you want to bake at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And when it's done, it should look something like this. Then just sprinkle some fresh parsley right over the top. Then add a side of melted butter and some lemon. And there you have it, stuffed lobster, right here in the Poor Man's Gourmet Kitchen. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stop by PoorMansGourmetKitchen.com for more recipes and exact ingredients. This is one of those beautiful lobster tails a friend of mine brought back from his Florida diving trip. So you can see it's gorgeous, and it's ready to go. So, what you want to do is take some kitchen shears right to the upper back part of the shell and trim right down the center until you get to the fan tail. Okay, but you don't want to go past that part.
can see the line right there. Not past there. That's where you want to stop. And then with your fingers, you're going to just take the shell up top and split it wide open. But be very careful, because you don't want to break it in half and split the membrane. You just want to split it open enough to separate the meat from the shell. And once you've got both sides separated, you can just grab underneath and pull right up through the center. But be sure not to separate the whole lobster tail meat from the shell. Okay? You want to keep it attached back here. And then what you're going to do with the shell is use it as a prop right over the top to hold up your lobster tail meat. Then the next step is some olive oil. You just want to pour enough over the top that you can fully coat with your hands thoroughly. You're going to go front and back, bottom, sides, everything. Make sure that you completely moisturize it with this olive oil everywhere so it's not to dry out when you're doing the baking or the grilling. Whichever you prefer. But at this point, we're just going to splash it with some paprika right over the top. This gives it a little bit of heat, gives it some nice color, and it's just the way it's done, period. Now just put it in a nice sized dish for baking. Take it straight to the oven here, throw it on your center rack, and then you're going to bake at 375 degrees, a minute and a half per ounce. 10-ounce tail here is going to go for 15 minutes. Then chop you up a little bit of fresh parsley. Get you a nice gob of softened butter. I'll add that parsley to it, along with some fresh minced garlic. And just give that a good mix here. It's just going to be the topping after it's done baking. Now before you pull it out, set it to broil. I'll show you why here in a minute. Out comes our lobster tail. Just like that. Beautiful. Huh? Now just take that topping right down the center of the top of that lobster tail. Just like that. And then if you've got a few lobster claws, go ahead and throw those in here with it. And then a little bit of warm water. This is going to help pick those up real nice, because it's going back under the broil. Now what you want here is about 6 to 8 inches of space between the meat and the upper burner. And voila! And there you have it. Lobster tail with claws, right here in the Poor Man's Gourmet kitchen. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stop by PoorMansGourmetKitchen.com for more recipes and exact ingredients.